We all know the infamous story Ghost Train. You know, the story where Percy tells Thomas and Toby about a ghost train and later scares Thomas by pretending he is a ghost train. Yeah, that one. Ever since the story was published, there's never been any real explanation as to what or even who the ghost train was. The closest that we get to a somewhat of an explanation is that the ghost engine was just a make-believe one that Percy's driver saw on TV, but nothing beyond that. Well, what if I told you that there is a reason for this? This is the true story of Ghost Train. Many years ago, the island of Sodor was occupied by three standard gauge railway companies: the Sodor and Mainland Railway, the Walsworth and Sudbury Railway, and the Timoth, Nafford and Ellsbridge Light Railway. In 1914, the three railways were all combined to form the Northwestern Railway. However, by this point, many of the engines that occupied these railways were getting old and worn and couldn't handle the construction alone. As such, many engines were brought on loan from the neighboring Midland and Furness railways to help with the construction. One of these engines was a Furness Railway G5 tank engine. The engine didn't have a name and only went by their number, 23. He was mainly relegated to goods work and shunting. According to multiple accounts from the engines and railway staff at the time, the engine was, in their words, very quiet yet cheerful. The engine allegedly hardly ever uttered a word to anyone, regardless of the circumstances. Yet despite this, he always smiled. Everyone thought this was a bit odd, but never really complained about it, as the engine always did his job and did it well. During this period, number 23, along with a few other engines, were very rarely maintained, as the railway board prioritized maintaining their passenger engines over their goods engines or shunters. As a result, 23 would start to have a lot more accidents in the yard, mainly with his brakes, which resulted in several derailments in the yard. These accidents were mostly swept under the rug, as they never had any serious consequences. However, that was all about to change. On the night of October 8th, 1914, an engine was scheduled to take a passenger train from Vickerstown to Cronk. During this time, a viaduct was being constructed between Cronk and Marin, so Cronk was the furthest an engine could go during this time. Unfortunately, the engine originally tasked to take the train broke down, and 23 was the only other engine in steam at the time, so he was tasked to pull the train. The engine departed around 11:50 p.m. and set off on his journey. A little while later, workmen were working on the viaduct when, according to their testimonies, they heard a whistle echo from afar. The workmen didn't really pay too much mind to this, as they were aware of the fact that an engine was supposed to be stopping at Cronk around this time anyway. Then, seemingly in an instant, number 23 rushed by the workmen, crashed through the barriers, and plunged into the gap with his whistle shrieking until there was a loud crash. The accident was a gruesome sight. Among the fiery wreck lay broken wood, bent metal, and heaps upon heaps of bodies. The next morning, the authorities were called to the accident site and cranes were brought to clear up the wreckage. Out of the entire train, the passengers, the guard, and the engine were all pronounced dead. The only survivors of the crash were number 23's driver, Timothy Wolfe, and fireman, Andrew Smith, who jumped clear before the crash. The investigators ruled the accident as another standard train crash, with the cause being faulty and poorly maintained equipment. After the accident, the railway had to pay a lot of money to the grieving families of the victims, which put them in a tough financial spot for a while. but they were eventually able to get things up and running normally again after some time had passed. The accident was mostly forgotten as it was overshadowed by the outbreak of World War I earlier that year. And as time passed and as more engines came to the island, construction continued, and the Northwestern Railway was declared open on June 9th, 1915. As the years went on, everyone mostly forgot about the accident, and it slowly faded into obscurity. However, this wasn't to last. On October 8th, 1964, on the 50th anniversary of the accident, the engine was spotted by eyewitnesses who were near the viaduct, who claimed to hear a shrill whistle, and then saw an old tank engine with a rake of coaches puffing across the viaduct before fading away into the night. The incident soon made the papers, and the story of the accident was retold all over the island. And with new interest in the story, many theories were conjured up regarding the accident. One theory suggested that the engine may have been suicidal, and another theory suggested that the engine may have just been insane. However, the most popular theory among the few who know about the story is that the engine was possessed by a demon. This theory was mainly used to explain the shrieking of the engine's whistle right before the crash. Obviously, none of these theories have ever been proven and really only exist to scare others. As time went on, however, and there became less and less interest regarding the story, the island would once again let the story fade into obscurity, as it did many years ago. To this day, the story of number 23 remains in obscurity, and no one really knows if the eyewitness accounts were even 100% true, as there haven't been any major sightings since this. However, the few people who know about this story will tell you that on every year on the anniversary of number 23's fatal accident, you can hear a shrill whistle echoing throughout the area, and you can even catch a glimpse of him taking a passenger train across the viaduct before fading into thin air. I wonder if they're right, don't you?